Welcome back. I'm going to delete this post class from the previous chapter because now we're going to transition over to a post eloquent model. Why don't we start with the migration? PHP Artisan, and have a look real quick. If I scroll up to this make section, the make commands are for generating files. You might want to generate an eloquent model or a migration class or a listener or a factory or an event. All of these things you will eventually learn about. But yeah, for now, pay attention to these two right here. Let's start with our migration. We need a migration to create a post table. PHP Artisan make migration. Now, sometimes when you run these commands, you won't quite know what arguments it expects. In those cases, you can precede it with help. Okay, so now you know the name is the name of your migration. Now, as a general rule of thumb, your migration name should describe what the migration does. So if we are creating a post table, we might say create post table. And notice how it's included as part of the file name. Okay, so we know we should be able to locate that in the database migrations directory. And there it is. And now notice Laravel's smart enough to parse out what your table name is, which is pretty cool. It found the name posts and it found the action create. So it knows you're probably creating a table. And it's right. Okay, so what does a table consist of? Well, we already thought about this a little bit in the last chapter, where we had this resources post section. We decided a post had a title, a slug, an excerpt, and a publish date. Okay, let's go ahead and delete that because we're done with that approach. And we'll say, well, yes, of course, every post has a unique ID and timestamps. If you're sure you don't need the timestamps, you can delete it, but when in doubt, keep them. Anyhow, a post has a title. It has an excerpt. Now, maybe you want this to be a string, but you probably want a little more room. A string will max out at 255 characters. So why don't we instead change that to a text column? We'll have one for the excerpt as well as the body of the post. Finally, in addition to created at and updated at timestamps, we'll do one more, a timestamp for when the post was published. And that can be nullable. All right, we're all set. So let's migrate my database. PHP Artisan migrate. And if we check out Table Plus, there's your post table. And here's the structure. Next up, we need a corresponding eloquent model. So we can do this in 2 steps, or I can show you how to group them into one in just a moment. Make a model called post. And again, this is really important. Notice how the model name is the singular version of the table name. It's a really common convention. Of course, you can override it if you need to, but try to stick to it when you can. Okay, so now you have a migration and a post eloquent model. Let's play around. PHP Artisan tinker, app models post, and let's try to get all of them from the database. But of course, there are none, so we get an empty collection. You can alternatively run the count method. How many posts are in the database? And of course, we get 0. Okay, let's make a new post. New post. And I'm sorry, we should save that. A post has a title. A post has an excerpt. It has a body. And we can leave the published at column null for now. All right, let's persist it. Post, save. I come back to Table Plus, I refresh, have a look at the data, and there's your first post. So easy. We'll first use @models post. And if we run post count again, of course we should get 1. If we run post all, we will get a collection of all posts. And notice, even if that collection only has a single item, it's still a collection. So in the cases where you want to find a single instance of post, you would say post either first, give me the first one in the database, or you would find it by its ID. And of course, the ID is 1. So you can imagine in your routes file saying, well, I need to find the post with the matching ID. And then in your view, you could grab the post title. In a div, maybe you could spit out the excerpt or the body of the post. And later, you'll even learn how to use relationships. So you could say things like, give me the author of the post and give me that person's name. But of course, that doesn't work right now. So now let's finish up by returning to my routes file. And the best part is, notice we already had this post class from the previous chapter, and the API is largely the same. The only change we need to make is when we're using Eloquent and we run the find method or the find or fail method, it expects an ID, not a slug. So let's tweak that, and then we'll return to this in a bit. All right, let's give it a shot. I need to boot up my server again. All of this power you get for free. Let's switch back, load the view, post.blade, and the only change we need to make is this is the ID of the post, not the slug. Though later I'll show you how to deal with the slugs if you want to. Okay, so refresh, and I can now click through to the post. This isn't wrapped in a paragraph tag, so our spacing is a bit off, but it does the job. Now, because this is dynamic, let's finish up by creating one more post. And I'll do it really quick. Like so. And again, the exact same system that we followed before. Now if I come back to Firefox, we have 2 posts in our database, so if I refresh, I now see 2 posts. Okay, so I hope you're getting excited. There's way more to cover, so let's keep going in the next episode.